All right, what's going on, everybody? It is another episode of Dynasty Season. We're going to start running down the top 12 at each position. We're going to start with quarterbacks today. I'm your host, Patrick, and Austin is here too. So we'll be going through discussing what's different in our top 12 and maybe who is right on that border that didn't make the cut but is an honorable mention. And we'll go through it and see what we got. But let's just jump right into it. Our first quarterback is the same. I think everybody has the same number one quarterback in Dynasty, and that's Josh Allen, right? Anybody, like, I have him in his own tier. So Patrick Mahomes used to be in that tier, but now I don't even have him in the same tier after the Tyreek trade. So I just have Josh Allen standing alone at number one. What do you got? I mean, you
Yeah,
obviously have Josh Allen at the top as well, but anything
yeah,
that
it's
makes
it's
him stand above the rest?
it's just the fact that he's got such a big arm. He's shown that he can produce with it, and he's got way more legs than you'd expect. Like this
Yeah.
guy puts up so much extra rushing upside for being a super young franchise. Looks like he has a super long future. If you have him in Dynasty, you have like a decade of solid quarterback play. So it's just the thing with Patrick Mahomes is his weapons are depleted, and he didn't look as amazing as you want from your number one overall guy last year when Josh Allen did. So yeah, Josh Allen's definitely number one here.
Yeah, and you still have Mahomes listed at two. I moved him down to three behind Herbert, which I was surprised you still had him above Herbert. But you're a Herbert guy. I figured you'd have him up here too. But I moved Herbert up just because when I look at what I'm looking at is 3 years, right? I'm looking at who has the best 3 year window at the position. Like, yeah, you say I could have this player for 10 years, but really looking out that far is really hard to do unless you're talking about Patrick Mahomes and his 10-year contract or Josh Allen with his real long-term deal. But for the most part, I'm trying to look, 3 years out. I want my quarterback to look like he's stable for the next 3 years. And so I didn't try to think about anything past those 3 years when I did my rankings. And in doing so, I put Herbert at two because of, like we said, the weapons around Patrick Mahomes right now are kind of limited. I obviously think that he's going to be just fine. There's enough receivers there for everybody to put up 600 yards and them to rotate people in and out, and Travis Kelce to be the elite receiver, their elite pass catching option. But losing Tyreek Hill, it can't make you gain value. That's just, there's no possible way for him to still be valued where he was without having Tyreek Hill. So I definitely dropped him down one spot just because, like I said, Herbert is, so young. These guys are both, age alone isn't a factor for these guys. They're all young enough to where they could be your quarterback for the next 10 years. You're looking at, you know, did they have the weapons around them to support a QB1 finish? Do they have a stable team situation where they're not turning over a head coach or offensive coordinator? Josh Allen lost his offensive coordinator. We could see something change in Buffalo. But when I look at Herbert and even Joe Burrow, I look at their weapons and what's around them, and I say for the next 3 years, they're loaded. So I have them way up here. And so I have Herbert at two. You have Mahomes at two. I have him at three. You have Herbert at three. It's same guys. I have them in the same tier. What's the difference in these two for you?
Um, it's just Mahomes is Mahomes. He has the Mahomes
Yeah.
magic. He's just been way too explosive for way long. Like it's ever since he stepped on the field. Well, not the first game because that was the last game of the season where he ruined
Yeah.
their lowest interceptions on the season of any team record. But ever since he had his first full year that he started, he just had insane power. So it is close though. Like Herbert, I am perfectly fine with anyone who puts him at two. I mean, I personally wouldn't trade Herbert for Mahomes one for one. I'd rather just keep Herbert just because I have him.
Yeah.
So it's obviously Mahomes isn't that much higher for me if I'm not willing to even do that trade. But that's just because I like Herbert that much. But it's just he got paid an insane amount of money. It looks like he has Andy Reid as well. I mean, Andy Reid is something that Herbert doesn't have, and while
Yeah.
like Herbert and Josh Allen are getting better coaching than some other young guys that we just wish got better coaching. It's Andy Reid is Andy Reid. He's going to always be solid. Like Mahomes, if he's healthy, he should put up big numbers. Whether or not they'll drop while he doesn't have insane weapons now, it's you have him for a decade. Like I was saying, like when you're picking these guys with your first 3 picks in a startup draft overall, you're basically saying, all right, QB1 slot, I'm not worrying about it for as long as I'm in this league. At least for as long as a lot
Yep.
of leagues last. I'm not sure the average age of a dynasty league, but I mean, the age of these quarterbacks is going to be insane. So they're pretty much the same though, but Mahomes is just a little bit higher. The Andy Reid factor, I guess, is what I'll say it is.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I said, I have him in the same tier. I don't see a huge difference in him. Mahomes could be the QB1 this year. I mean, any of these guys have QB1 upside. I think all the way down to like 7, maybe. I think Dak is that cutoff line where I don't think he has the QB1 upside, but I think he's or like QB1 overall, but I think he's a top 12 QB for sure. But I think Dak is probably that cutoff line for me of could be the number 1 overall QB any given year. So I'm with it. You know, this is where we have our first real swap. And again, it's the same players switched, but I have Burrow at 4 and you have Kyler Murray at 4. And then we both have Lamar at 5, followed by the opposite. So I have Burrow at 4 and Murray at 6, and you have Murray at 4 and Burrow at 6. So I touched on it a little bit with the weapons and the situation and what we've seen from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been nothing but a stud. When he came in before he got hurt, he looked like he was going to be a guy. And then they went out and got his pal, Jamar Chase, and they already had T. Higgins. And he came in and in his first full season took the team to a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that I expect him to, be this insane. I don't know if he's Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if he's even Justin Herbert. I think the fantasy value there, he's not as mobile. He did come off the knee injury, the big catastrophic knee injury, but he's not as mobile of a quarterback. One of the things that Dak Prescott took a hit in was his rushing upside that he used to have. These quarterbacks get hurt and sometimes they lose that part of their game. Like you talked about with Josh Allen. I don't know how long he's going to be running the football like that.
Oh yeah, wait
They
until he
talk
has
about
the
it.
same thing that happened to like Wentz and then Dak and all these other guys. They get terrible leg injury, and suddenly they have half or less the amount of rushing attempts than they ever had before, and they never go back.
And they talk
So
about it too. Like it's a focus for these teams of, you got to know when is the right time to put your body on the line. I don't need you putting your body on the line on a 1st and 10 and you're just trying to evade a sack. Just throw the ball away. I don't need you trying to run and truck a guy on a 2nd and 4 to try and get a first down. Like save your body. We'll get it on 3rd down. And that's the thing about these quarterbacks is now they're being smarter with it, but we're still seeing some of them use their legs. And Josh Allen's just so big that people are bouncing off him. But Joe Burrow is missing that a little bit, and I think is that the biggest reason why you have Kyler Murray as your number 4 quarterback up there?
yeah,
Or
so the reason why, because it's Kyler Murray, Lamar, then Joe, and the reason why it's Kyler Murray and Lamar above him is just because of the rushing upside. Until Joe, and very likely after this year, partway through this year, Joe's gonna make that leap and be like pretty close to Justin Herbert argument of just insane production, massive games, game in, game out. But until he finally does that, I just would rather bank on the rushing upside right now of the other two, just because how much extra points you can get at the quarterback position with those extra rushing. I mean, if you have a 6 point passing league, I might just go Burrow above the other two. But
yeah.
it's I only did it because of the legs, but Joe can easily pass him up soon. I
So
can see it happening.
I have Joe Burrow as the QB4. I have him in that same tier 2 as Herbert and Mahomes. I have him that high for me. Just because we look at what he did this last year, nothing is changing and his offensive line got better. So they're trying to fix the offensive line, which was the biggest problem. Joe Burrow was getting murdered on a football field. But they, like T. Higgins, rookie deal. Jamar Chase, rookie deal. Joe Burrow, rookie deal. Mixon is there for at least 2 years. Like, they're set. I just, the way I look at it is I don't see any reason why they would decline from where they were at offensively. And I think they're going to be a team that competes and goes to the playoffs. And I think Joe Burrow is the reason for that. So I have Joe Burrow as high as in that tier, but I'm a little less reliant on that rushing upside with these elite guys because Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, they're both missing a bunch of time. They're both taking extra shots. Like, they're both missing games. And that's the only reason I have less value in that rushing upside that Kyler Murray does provide. He's going to get rushing touchdowns. Like, that is something that Kyler Murray adds to his game, but we have kind of seen start to taper off because of the injuries. We saw James Conner get all the work, and but part of that has to do with no DeAndre Hopkins as well. So, Kyler Murray is going to score touchdowns. He's going to put up fantasy points. I just don't know if I have him high enough to ever take him in a league, because for me, when I get to that point, I'm going to take a position player in a startup over taking that Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. I'll take a top wide receiver or Jonathan Taylor or something before I go that route. So I think that's maybe where that disconnect is for me. It's just that next tier is a little awkward for me. But then we both have Lamar at 5. And Lamar, we've seen him pass. He was an MVP. We've seen his passing volume go up. We saw Hollywood Brown be like a stud the whole time, the start of the year when Lamar Jackson was in. Lamar Jackson goes out. We see Tyler Huntley come in there and play okay, but our offensive weapons besides Mark Andrews kind of disappeared, and I think Lamar has taken a step forward as a passer. Like, for me, I think Lamar and Jalen Hurts are very similar, and they're closer than people want to admit. And I know Jalen Hurts' biggest knock has always been his ability passing the ball. Lamar's thing has always been his ability passing the ball. They've got the ability to be out there and win football games, but if all their fantasy points are coming from their legs, I get more scared than I do confident in building my dynasty team around them. It's a little bit different with Lamar because he is entrenched as the starter. He is, looking at a long-term contract extension. There's all this drama going on about it. Especially after the Ravens owner came out saying, like, giving Deshaun Watson this fully guaranteed contract makes things a little hard on them, which I can understand. It probably makes their job really difficult. But I think that's what the reason I have Lamar up here instead of down near the back half of the top QB1 rankings, just because he is guaranteed that spot. He has had some injury issues, but I think he's taken a step forward in passing, and he's still got that rushing upside. And when he's running the ball, he is electric. Like, he is a stud. So, what else do you got to say about Lamar?
Yeah, so the real only reason why I have Kyler just above Lamar is I think Kyler has a better upside with his arm, but I think Lamar is the king of, if you want to talk about rushing upside for a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think his rushing upside is better than Kyler's, better than honestly anybody in the league. He's number 1 when it comes to the rushing upside. People are acting like Trey Lance might come in and take the number 1, but I mean, until we see it, it's Lamar right now. And I really like that aspect of just getting those extra points off of like the rushing touchdowns where he just breaks off a fat run and suddenly you're gaining 4 points instead of him throwing a 40-yard bomb and you're gaining less. So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure last year
it.
Jalen Hurts led all quarterbacks in rushing yards, but again, Lamar Jackson missed time, and he was still he was just above Lamar Jackson after playing most of the year. And so if Lamar had played a full season, he was still going to lead that by a few hundred yards probably. So he's the guy. But he also has, given that team, he was an MVP, and he's taken the team to the playoffs. He's made that team win a lot of football games. Harbaugh just got an extension. So, if he can stay healthy, he'll stay up here in my QB rankings. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy while he because the way he scores fantasy points is more detrimental to his health than a traditional pocket passer. So it's just more volatile, more risky, but he has the opportunity to be QB1 every single week from an 80-yard touchdown run.
And then I don't know how much this factors in, but how do you feel about the longevity of a quarterback like Lamar? Like looking at how quickly Cam Newton just fell off. Is it a worry that a guy like Lamar is going to have a shorter total lifespan than a guy like Herbert or Mahomes?
Yeah,
Or is it
that is a
just
concern for me.
they're young enough right now, who cares?
I don't think it's going to be within the next 3 years, but as
It's
that
probably like 7 maybe. I
as
want to say
that
6, 7.
as those
Yeah.
mobile quarterbacks get to 28 to 30 years old in that window, you got to start looking at their game. Is their game changing in a way that is going to support them being a quarterback going forward? Are they reliant on their ability to run the football, or are they able to take that step and transition to more of a traditional pocket passer when they start to not be able to outrun everybody on the football field? Because that time will come. And I don't know if their arm talent, like you said, Kyler Murray's arm talent is probably better. And I would agree for like longevity, I've probably got him lasting longer than Lamar Jackson because of I think his arm talent is better. But then you got to look at, how valuable are these guys going to be without their rushing upside? Like we had that conversation with Dak, and Dak's rushing was actually like on a per game basis. If you take his fumbles and some of them are in the pocket, so you can't necessarily attribute them to rushing, but his overall rushing stats, he was like negative 0.04 points a game or something rushing. So he's hurting his overall score every week from his rushing lack of rushing upside. But you look at some of the other quarterbacks where they're getting 6, 8 points, like Jalen Hurts and Lamar. They're getting a free touchdown from their rushing upside. So you can't discredit it, but you gotta factor it in long term, the hits and the injuries and the risk that they're not going to be in your lineup because of the way they score their points. But then we have, the other, I have Murray, you have Burrow. We've talked about him. We'll just go on to the next one. But I have Burrow in that tier 2, and then I have Lamar and Kyler in a tier. So I have them there as that next tier. Then going after that, we both have Deshaun Watson. I think his contract really pushed him up this high. The fact that he's going to be there regardless of if he gets suspended this whole season. Like we have kind of gotten enough information from the whole legal situation to know that, he's going to play football again. He's been traded. He's gotten the contract. Even if he gets suspended 6 games or even a full season, you're expecting him to come back. His rushing upside, he has led the league in passing. He's going to have better weapons, hopefully, than he did in Houston. Like, I'd take Amari Cooper over Brandon Cooks, but they still need to get another guy. But I think Deshaun Watson, if you have held him this long, you're not selling him for anything. And
Yeah, this
if
is
you
why
haven't
you've held him.
And if you haven't bought him yet, it's too late. But I do have him as a top 10 dynasty quarterback. I don't think he's going to get suspended a whole year, but who knows? The NFL could do anything. They could do whatever they want. So if they suspend him 6 games, you're probably pretty happy, and you just suck it up and move on. You've had him this long. But after that, I think you're locked and loaded with a QB1 every week. So, what do you think about Watson in Cleveland? And
Yeah, it
he's
just
got a
feels
guaranteed
like
contract.
yeah, and it feels like when he plays, if he's playing a full season, it's pretty much guaranteed 4,000 yards passing plus rushing upside. So it just feels like he's been too good. I keep thinking maybe I want to knock him down a couple spots because the next couple guys on my list have an insane supporting cast compared to his supporting cast.
Yeah.
But it's just he's always done it, and we can't really pretend like Houston was such a great place, even though he did have Hopkins, Fuller at one point. But I just he's too good. He's too good to knock him, even if you dislike anything about him, even if you don't like the fact that he's going to be suspended for a bit. We're talking about Dynasty. He's going to be there for the long haul.
Yeah.
He got in. It's all guaranteed. His contract, right? Wasn't it 100% guaranteed?
Yes.
Or
100%
yeah,
guaranteed.
yeah. He's definitely going to be a top 10 quarterback for way too long.
Yeah, and I think that the uh, downside, like if he's not elite, he's what, mid QB, like top end QB2, back end QB1. If he hasn't played football in a year and he forgot how to play football, right? Like,
Yeah, he might start off with some QB 14 games maybe,
yeah,
but
yeah,
then he'll be back up. Like I feel like bad weeks for him are going to be like QB 11, 12, and good
yeah.
weeks he can be as high as like the QB. He could
He could be
possibly be
QB1.
QB1 some
Yeah,
weeks, yeah, certainly, but at the end of the year he'll be sitting about where I think like where we have him, QB7, and I feel like that's probably the perfect spot.
and then right after Watson, so the next three people, we have the same three, but I have Dak at 8, and you have Dak at what is that? 9, 10? You
I
have
have him
10.
at 10. Yeah.
So the next three are Dak, Russell Wilson, and Matt Stafford. So I have Dak at 8. I got a cat going through a bag right now. I have Dak at 8. You have Russell Wilson. So if you took my rankings, and it goes for me: Dak, Russell Wilson, and then Matt Stafford. If you took Dak and put him right behind Matt Stafford, that's how you have him. So the same three players, but in a little bit different order.
Pretty much the same situation as Joe Burrow earlier.
Yeah,
Or do you have him above two guys that are super similar? I have him right below two guys that are super similar.
yeah, and a lot of these come down to personal preference. It's really not like you got to call your shot. These guys are in a similar tier. They like the reason I have Dak up there is because of his contract and the fact that the Cowboys offense has year over year been a top like 6 passing offense, and every time Dak has been healthy, he's been productive on the football field. But like we talked about earlier, he lost that rushing upside, which I don't want to say it's gone forever yet. I still have hope. Not that it'll be as good as it once was, but that after he's a year removed from the injury, he's played a full season of football. Maybe he's got his legs under him a little bit more and he's willing to get out of the pocket and use his legs a little bit more. But it's not going to be like we saw before. It's going to be more like Patrick Mahomes has sneaky rushing upside. And I think we could look at sneaky rushing upside for Dak, where it's not him running out of the pocket for design quarterback runs, but it's him getting out of the pocket on a 3rd and 6 and getting 8 for a first down. You know, I think we could get back to that instead of him sliding at the line of scrimmage to avoid contact. It's just after the injury, we didn't see it. I don't want to say it's gone forever. I think it is a very vital part to their offense, and I think it's possible that we get some of that back. But you can't bet on it, and I still have him there because of his contract, because CeeDee Lamb's still on a rookie deal. I think right now my belief is that they're getting Treylon Burks at 24. Like that's what I think is going to happen, because if Treylon Burks is there at 24, Jerry Jones is taking Treylon Burks. It'll be like CeeDee Lamb all over again. Like
So right before the Cowboys at 24 is the Cardinals at 23. Is that right?
yeah.
Because I feel like the Cardinals are actually a really spicy spot to grab a wide receiver that I
I
haven't been seeing
agree.
in a lot of mock drafts. So be scared if they snipe you on that
Hey,
Treylon Burks. I feel like that works with their team.
we have
Burks
said it
works.
multiple times. If there are 5 quarterbacks in the first round, then some of these wide receivers are going to get pushed down. If there are 2 quarterbacks in the first round, or maybe 3 with pick 32, then we're going to see more wide receivers and edge rushers up there. Like we're just gonna have to see how things fall when the draft comes. So I could definitely see the Cardinals taking a wide receiver right in front of the Cowboys, but I would love to see the Cowboys take a day 2 wide receiver to add with Dak. We've talked about it on our available landing spots and opportunities. Like, they need a wide receiver after Amari Cooper left, and they're gonna try and do it through the draft. So, but you have Russell Wilson there. Russell Wilson, he's next on my list. If you're looking at a 3-year window, I think he's locked and loaded every week. Start with incredible weapons in Denver, right?
Yeah, so him and Matt Stafford are pretty much identical to me, and I was
Yeah,
struggling over who I like
agreed.
more. The thing is, they're both like 33, 34. I mean, you got guys like Aaron's 38 and still going, Tom's 45, and then I don't remember exactly the ages that Philip Rivers and Eli and Big Ben fell off, but I feel like you still have a solid at least, yeah, 4 years. I could almost even say you can guarantee 4 years. But they're on super teams. They really are. They're set
Yeah.
up on super teams, and they're given the full reins of the offense. It's going to be nothing but them throwing to stars all year, and I just want to be a part of that super team. I like both of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm back and forth on whether or not I like Stafford more than Wilson, but it's basically two guys who have proven that they are elite franchise quarterbacks, and they're set up on super teams, and I want a piece of it.
I am tempted to move Stafford above Wilson just because of that connection he has with Cooper Kupp and the fact that we've already seen it for a year. But when you look at the weapons that Denver has, like, their wide receiver 3-4 is Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler. Like, Tim Patrick has led that team in touchdowns the last 2 years. It hasn't been a high number, but he's led that team in touchdowns the last 2 years. Jerry Jeudy has been, he had the injury, and then he had Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, and I can't wait to see what he becomes now. Courtland Sutton could, like, have a career year. He's that big body outside guy. Like, he is, like, if you look at Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, it is almost just like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Now, then you add in Tim Patrick and Javonte Williams and KJ Hamler and Albert O. Like, there are so many weapons on this team. It doesn't matter who Russell Wilson throws the ball to. Like, he could score on every play. Like, it's just insane. So I have Russ up there, but I don't think Matthew Stafford is anything to worry about either. Like I said, they're the same tier, same type of player, same situation, almost identical on super teams. And
yeah, same age pretty much. Just
he
they're
has
set up for
Cooper
success.
Kupp,
Everything's
Allen
built around them. They're
Robinson,
the focal point.
Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, Tyler Higbee. Like, they have weapons as well. And I just, I went with Wilson ahead of him just because I like the wide receivers more. I know Cooper Kupp was just the far and away wide receiver 1, but I'm a big Jerry Jeudy fan. I think Courtland Sutton could still be the wide receiver 1 this year for that team, fantasy wise, and we could see 2 wide receivers in the top 20 from them. It's going to be fun to watch, especially in that division. The thing about the division and them being in shootouts and having to play those teams every week, they're going to be chucking the ball. Like, they have to win that division. So
yeah, every single team's designed to score a touchdown on every drive. So to compete,
yes,
you just got to score a touchdown every drive.
yes,
So
but
it's going to be a whole lot of moving.
that is what pushes Russ ahead of Stafford for me. But then you have Dak right after Stafford. We've kind of talked enough about that one. Unless you have anything else you want to say, we'll move on to our. We agree on the number 11 quarterback. So. Anything you want to say about those 3 guys before we move to the next one?
Yeah, no, honestly, Dak goes above those 2 if he gets the rushing upside back, or he just balls out with his arm. But I think his arm alone, the other 2 have a better supporting cast. The other 2 are more seasoned, elite veterans. So that's the only
I
reason
can see
why.
that. I can get that. Then our quarterback 11. Our quarterback 11 is Derek Carr. We have talked about Derek Carr with the Devontae trade some of the offseason stuff. Um, I'm in. I know Derek Carr he's never thrown for 30 touchdowns. I expect him to throw for 30 plus touchdowns this year. Mike Clay put out his projections for the season a couple days ago, and he had Hunter Renfrow still projected like 100 plus targets, with Darren Waller getting 100 targets and Devontae Adams getting like 168. I think we're talking about the target share numbers for Devontae, and he may not have that wide receiver one upside anymore. I think he does, and I think Derek Carr has QB 5 upside. I have him at 11 just because he's been consistently a middle of those teens finishing spot at the end of the year. He's very consistent, but not exceptional. And I think we saw that year where it looked like he was going to be an MVP, and then he got hurt. And I was watching Pat McAfee today, and they had somebody call in talking about Devontae and not being able to do what he did in Green Bay. And Pat said, hey, I was playing when that season when Derek Carr looked like he was going to be an MVP and he got hurt. Like, we were preparing for the game plan. And I went out and I met Derek Carr before the game. And, all we prepared for all week was Derek Carr. Derek Carr was the guy, the superstar on that team when we were preparing to play them. So I don't think he was talking about how Derek Carr doesn't get enough love. I don't think Derek Carr gets enough love. I think adding Devontae Adams to that is enough to send Derek Carr from a QB 14-15. Mike Clay's projections had him ending as the QB 15 for this coming season. I think it is entirely possible he throws for 35 touchdowns and 4,500 plus yards, and Devontae Adams has still wide receiver one upside. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. I think it's more realistic for him to throw 30 touchdowns. He's going to throw over 4,000 yards. Like, that's just going to happen. He was in the top 10 in passing attempts last year. They still have Josh Jacobs, but I don't see any reason why Derek Carr wouldn't be a top 12 QB this year and for the next 2 years, 3 years. I'm in for the Derek Carr run this next 2-3 years with Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow. Like, their problem was always weapons. You look at what Derek Carr has done the last few years. Look at the weapons he had on the outside. They were always trying to find a guy. And Hunter Renfrow kind of became the guy they needed last year. And I still think Hunter Renfrow is going to play a very valuable part on that offense. Darren Waller is going to be healthy again. And they brought in Devontae Adams. I'm all in.
Yeah, it's definitely people have hated on Derek Carr for far too long, and it's time he finally shows himself. He's going to go off this year. I am huge about Derek Carr, and I think Josh Jacobs actually might be boosting Derek Carr's passing upside with the addition of Josh McDaniels. They're going to have a lot more screens. I think there's going to be a lot more dump offs to Josh Jacobs to get a little extra more than handing it off to him. So I feel like all around, Derek Carr is going to be insane this year. The division was mounting up like, hey, Raiders, you're going to have to roll over. This
Yeah.
division's going to be too tough. And like, okay, let's go get Devontae Adams. This division ain't going to be too tough. We're going to try and run this division. So I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited to see them go off and even have a chance at being the top team in this division. That would be insane after the Chargers go out and load up, and the Chiefs being the Chiefs the past couple of years, the Broncos going out and getting Russell Wilson, and then all of a sudden the Raiders come out of nowhere and win that division. That would be insane. And you don't add
I
Devontae Adams if you're not trying to do that.
I
So
think they could. And I think their defense is not like the Chargers. They just absolutely stacked their defense this offseason with J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack. And, they're still looking for like a stud linebacker after, what's his name left? Kaiser White. He went to the Eagles, but like they've got Derwin James, they've got J.C. Jackson, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. Like, everybody's been mocking them to take an interior defensive lineman, but instead they go sign Sebastian Joseph Day. Like, they have a defense that I think, may push them ahead of the Raiders, but I could see the Raiders and Derek Carr still being in that conversation. I still
They're a
have,
fun dark horse team this year for
yeah,
sure.
and I still think my pick to win the division is still the Chiefs. Like, I know they don't have Tyreek. I'm still picking them to win the division. I gotta see it. Like this whole talk last year of Patrick Mahomes was having a rough year and was bad, and that middle stretch of the year where he did look a little rough, he cleaned it all up, and we saw that lights out game of him versus Josh Allen in the playoffs that made them change the playoff rules. Like, I'm not worried. I think the Chiefs are going to win the division still, but I could see Devontae giving Derek Carr enough to be a QB1 for the next 3 years. It's a little sketchy just because, Devontae is getting up there in age, but Devontae is elite. Like, I am not worried about it, and I think what you would be worried about with his age, like, these guys have played together and already showed us they love playing together. Like, I'm not worried. But, yeah, Derek Carr at 11 doesn't bother me. If people still have him ranked in like their mid to late teens, I'll go trade for him. I'll take him. But our last QB, we have a difference. This is where our list differs. We don't have the same quarterback here. This is the only quarterback we have that differs in our top 12, regardless of which order we have them in. I have Jalen Hurts. And
yeah, I figured.
So I made some notes about Jalen Hurts. Prior to the offseason, I had him at like the 8-9 range. Matthew Stafford signed an extension. Russell Wilson got traded to Denver. Let's see. Derek Carr getting Devontae. Deshaun Watson getting traded and then paid. All of them, they moved up my rankings. Jalen Hurts has also moved up in the way I see him, but not enough to keep him ahead of those guys. So I know a lot of people are questioning whether Jalen Hurts is going to be the future of the Eagles. It's obviously been a topic of conversation since they drafted him and they had Carson Wentz and everything that has gone on with Jalen Hurts and his lackluster passing at times. But he took him to the playoffs. The team just traded away a first-round pick this year, which gives them ammo for the following year to move up and get a quarterback if they needed to. They have came out and said that Jalen Hurts is going to be their quarterback this year. He just took him to the playoffs, like I said. I think that Jalen Hurts played well enough last year, which was really his rookie year, right? He played 4 games or something the year before. So this was really his first full season. The second half of the year, he played hurt and still put up decent fantasy points. Still won games for the team down the stretch, still took them to the playoffs where they got, bounced by the Bucks, but that team was a dumpster fire, and Jalen Hurts took them to the playoffs. They have Devonta Smith as their only real wide receiver. Jalen Reagor doesn't count. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside doesn't count. Like, these guys don't matter. Now, if they take a Garrett Wilson or somebody in the first round, and it's Devonta Smith and Garrett Wilson with Dallas Goedert, who took a step forward after they traded Zach Ertz, like, they could have a functional passing offense. And if Jalen Hurts is able to go from a quarterback who gets us fantasy points every week with his legs to a quarterback who gets us fantasy points with his arm and then makes it double with his legs, like, I'll be cool with it. So I am looking, and I think Jalen Hurts has that upside and has the ability to take that step forward, whereas the next guys in my rankings are like Tua, I think, is my next ranked quarterback. And that's because, he has Jalen Waddle and Tyreek. But he does, that rushing upside we talk about is just so hard to quantify the risk of him losing his job because he can run the ball well but not pass the ball well versus the fantasy points that him running the ball gets us. So I do have him at 12, but again, I can understand if you're out on him. I believe in Jalen Hurts and his ability to take that next step. Um, he didn't win an MVP like Lamar Jackson, but if you go look at their numbers side by side, like through their first like 17 starts or whatever, they're almost identical, like exactly the same. And we saw Lamar kind of progress as a passer, and that's what I want to see from Jalen Hurts. I just don't know if we're going to get the opportunity to see it, and that's why he's down here and Lamar is up at 5. Jalen Hurts is down here because of the risk, because of them moving on at quarterback, because we don't know if he's going to be their franchise answer. Whereas even though Lamar doesn't have a long-term deal, we know he's going to be a starting quarterback. Jalen Hurts, we can't guarantee that past this season. I think we can say for sure he's the starter going into this season. I think we've gotten past they could draft the quarterback. Now, it's still in the realm of possibilities. They do stupid shit all the time.
Honestly, even if they do, though, I feel like that quarterback will sit behind
I
Jalen
still
to
think
start.
Jalen Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback. And so I think you can get rid of some of that risk and take a high upside quarterback into the season who has the possibility to earn a long-term gig. And if things start going bad, more than likely you're going to be left holding the bag. If things go bad for Jalen Hurts, he's probably going to be moved on from so fast that you're not able to get any value out of him when you trade him, or try to move on from him, or when the team moves on from him. So it's one of those things that it's very risky. So you have to kind of call your shot. Do you believe Jalen Hurts is going to take that next step and become a better passer? I think if they add another good wide receiver in this draft, I am willing to bet on it. I'm willing to say I think Jalen Hurts will be a good enough passer to be an NFL quarterback and become a franchise quarterback for that team. But that's not a guaranteed, and that's the risk you got to be willing to take if you're going to put him there. So, but you have Aaron Rodgers, so I couldn't do it. I understand. I know, but his top wide receiver is Allen Lazard. I don't care if he was back-to-back MVPs. He's 38 and has no wide receivers. So convince me. Tell me why he's 12.
They're going to figure it out. They'll get some guys in there. I think they're honestly waiting until after the draft before they sign the remaining big names, because there's still OBJ and Jarvis Landry. They could pick up both of those guys who they know work on a field well together
Will
and put
Fuller?
them with Aaron. Will Fuller is another name that I thought the Chiefs should have gone for. I think he's very similar. I think he's just a better MVS, honestly.
I was going to say he could replace
it's an
MVS on the
upgrade
Packers.
than what they lost in MVS. Imagine they get Jarvis Landry MVS or not MVS. Jarvis Landry Will Fuller, OBJ Will Fuller. I definitely think they didn't re-sign Aaron. Aaron didn't agree to come back, knowing, because I'm pretty sure he knew this was going to happen with Devontae, or something was up with the Devontae situation before he re-signed, because I'm sure he was talking with Devontae about trying to go all in and go for a couple of years, and he's not coming back unless he's talked to Devontae about coming back and then figuring out that situation. So I'm pretty sure he knew what was going on. He didn't re-sign just to end Green Bay on I'm going to play for fun in exhibition games but not have a real team. I think they're going to figure it out, and I think he's guaranteed at least 2 years. I think he definitely wants to play till he's 40, but the contract went for longer. I mean, if you look at the numbers,
it's like a 5-year deal, right?
Yeah, it's a 5-year.
It's really
but I think
2
the last
or 3.
Are trash.
Yeah.
So I think it's at least 3. I'm willing to be confident in saying you're getting 3 years, but I'm almost willing to guarantee
2 is guaranteed,
2
I
years.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's dang near guaranteed at 2, and I feel good about 3. And I'm still scared about Jalen's future, and I'd rather go in on how much longer we can milk Aaron Rodgers versus how much longer do we have behind Jalen before they possibly do want to move on from him, or will he pan out? And then with Tua, who I actually have right in between Aaron and Jalen Hurts. The reason why I went with Tua is over Jalen Hurts is because I was originally really down on Tua. I had him much lower, but that was back when they were trying to get Deshaun Watson, and then they kicked out their old coach Brian Flores, blamed him for all of the Deshaun Watson rumors, saying we were always behind Tua. It was him causing all this strife, him constantly causing the drama, saying that we were trying to get Watson. It wasn't us. We're so in on Tua. Let's build an insane amount of weapons. Let's get Tyreek Hill for him. And they went so in on Tua. that I like that more. I'm honestly was debating whether or not I should have Aaron at 13 and Tua at 12, just because of Tua's age and how hard they went in on him this year. It's but I feel like Aaron he's pissed off about Tom Brady continuing to getting the spotlight, going till he's 45 and stealing the spotlight from him. He put up back-to-back MVPs. I think he's pissed and wants to keep putting up massive years. He wants to try and make a name for himself. And I think he's still going to be insanely relevant. But I could
I
definitely see having the younger guys, Tua and Jalen, over him.
I so if he still had Devonte Adams, he's probably at 12 for me. He may even be at 11 for me if he's got Devonte Adams and he's guaranteed 2 years.
Because that means Derek Carr doesn't have Devonte Adams, who's at 11.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, I don't know if I could put him in the same. He'd probably be right behind that Dak, Stafford, Wilson group. Like that next quarterback probably wouldn't pass any of them in my opinion if he had Devontae still, just because of the 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 drama we've gone through, the longevity and that I see going forward, and the like Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is out of there after this year. Robert Tunyon's back on just a 1 year deal. Lazard is their longest tenured like Packer if you don't count Randall Cobb leaving and coming back, But I just if they draft a Treylon Burks or a
I see Olave
Drake London
a
or
lot.
Chris Olave, like that could definitely help them. But if they draft Chris Olave, I personally am even more worried unless they take another wide receiver or they sign
Chris
a Jarvis
Olave
Landry.
and then Christian Watson, just double dip on it.
Or
they go Chris Olave and then grab
Jarvis
OBJ out of
Landry
free
or something.
agency,
Yeah,
or Jarvis Landry.
if they did something like that, I'd be more confident. But right now, I just don't know what they're going to do. And with Aaron Rodgers' age and him already having contemplated retirement and everything else, like, yeah, I know he is slotted like contract wise to look like he's guaranteed 2 years. That doesn't mean he won't retire after this year. That doesn't mean if they don't go and get a wide receiver for him to throw the ball to, that he can build some trust with, because we've seen it. He likes to trust his receivers and likes to have the faith in those guys or else he's not throwing the ball. So if they can't build that and go into this year and compete, which I think even with a ragtag group of wide receivers, Aaron Rodgers can compete. But if they can't get something that really takes them to that level of competing in the playoffs, if they can't get a wide receiver that is going to come in day one and have an impact, I don't think Aaron Rodgers retiring after this year is off the table. Yes, his contract is 2 years, but I don't think that is out of the realm of possibilities, especially if they don't really reinforce his weapons. So that's what scares me about Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is a back-to-back MVP. He's going to go out there and he's going to, huck it, chuck it football. So I couldn't put him in my top 12. He's right outside. But like you said, you have Tua in front of Hurts. I have Tua right behind Hurts. We kind of have the same people there. And once we get into, post-draft and closer to the regular season, we'll do a video of our Dynasty, like top 24. We'll probably just go through all the teams. We'll rank our quarterbacks by the teams. Once we know who's starting for every team and which quarterbacks got drafted where, and we'll go through all that. Because once we get closer to the season, we'll put out, we'll have our Dynasty rankings. But I want to try and compare my Dynasty rankings to a redraft single season rankings as well. And maybe we'll do an episode on a couple little redraft things before the draft season starts, while we have this long lull after the draft and rookie drafts of what is going on in the NFL while we wait for preseason. So this was our top 12. We mentioned a couple others outside of it, but we have 11 the same for our top 12. So I think pretty close. We have them in a little bit different order, but kind of the similar tiers. And Aaron Rodgers snuck in there for you. Hurts snuck in there for me. We'll do running backs.
I almost did Tua.
Yeah.
I was super close to putting Tua up there, but I couldn't. Aaron's been too good.
Yeah, I get it. I'm back-to-back MVP. So next episode we'll do our top 12 running backs, and again, we'll do a longer one with more rankings past the top 12 once we see who gets drafted where, once we see our final transactions, maybe some training camp injuries before we go into the season. We'll have our list that locks before we go into the year, so we can look back at it and see, all right, how accurate was this for this season, and kind of judge ourselves on where that ended up. So we'll go through running backs next on Friday. And any questions or differences you have with our rankings, make sure you leave it in a comment on the YouTube video and tell us why. Like, if you have a quarterback we didn't mention here in our top 12, say if you really think Tua, or you think Trevor Lawrence should sneak in there at 12, who I think is like 14 for me. So, there's some guys in there that if you want to argue they could be a top 12 quarterback, or you think they're a top 12 quarterback, tell us why. But we'll do running backs on Friday, and we'll go from there. Anything else you want to talk about quarterback-wise before we get out of here, Austin?
No, other than Carson Wentz probably going to be QB1 this year. We'll see.
Gosh, I think you're the only person who likes Carson Wentz.
I am the last Carson Wentz believer.
Yeah.
Dude, he's going to win the division at least. That one, I'm going to put money on that. I plan to, with how high I can get that bet.
The Cowboys are breaking the curse. They're winning it back-to-back seasons. It's happening. So you cannot convince me otherwise.
For Commander Carson.
I hate it. I hate it. Get me out of here. All right. Make sure you guys leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, leave us a review. Make sure you go to the @HeartSportsTalk Twitter and enter in the $20 NFL Shop giveaway. It is going to finish right before the draft starts. I believe it's like an hour. Last chance to enter is an hour before the draft starts. And you can go get, $20 towards whatever rookie your team drafts that you want to invest in. If you're a Jets fan, maybe you can get a jersey that will last you more than 2 seasons. So
you focus on the legacies. You get your Nick Mangold, your Curtis Martin.
Oh, you're buying legend jerseys.
Yeah. You can't get anyone recent.
Gotcha.
No Jets fan, no sane Jets fan gets anyone recent these days.
Hey, I tried to buy a Jalen Smith Cowboys jersey, so they didn't have it in stock. They saved me from that misery. So I feel your pain, but that'll be it for tonight. If you guys are watching this, make sure you like the video. Otherwise, we will see you on Friday with our top 12 running backs.